Next we have B4, Operations Management Planning and Technique, and Module 3, Ratio Analysis of Forecasts and Projections. What exactly do we have in this module? Ratio analysis, an overview, liquidity ratios, activity debt ratios, and profitability ratios. We have done all of them, but here our specific objective is to understand how these ratios can be used for projections and forecasts. So let us first discuss the overall ratio analysis, an overview. Why do we use ratio analysis? We use ratios to evaluate companies' performance, past performance, the current performance, and we can use the ratios for future projections, for future forecasts also. So we have done most of the ratios, as I just told you a little while ago. This is an important concept which we discussed earlier, but let us just revisit it. Ratios on the exam may require you to do three things. First, just calculate, or interpretation might be required, what the ratio means, or an analysis of the effect of change. These are the three ways you might be tested on. So when asked to analyze whether a ratio is likely to increase or decrease, you need to know this. If the numerator of the ratio increases as a result of some transaction or some effect, this will cause the ratio to increase. A numerator has a direct relationship with the ratio. For example, an increase in the numerator results in an increase in the ratio. Similarly, the denominator has an inverse relationship with the ratio. For example, an increase in the denominator will result a decrease in the ratio. So this is fairly straightforward, but sometimes when both numerator and denominator, they change, sometimes with equal amount, sometimes differently. So when both the numerator and denominator are affected by a given change, the quick way for us to do is to just plug in some assumed numbers. The best way to answer a question like these is to just plug some numbers and then calculate the ratio. And then you can give your opinion whether it is increased, decreased, or whatever the consequent effect might be. So the next subunit is the liquidity ratios. We have done this in detail. Liquidity measures the business ability to pay its current obligation as they become due. So it basically measures your short-term solvency, whether the business will be able to pay off the current obligations as they mature. We have these 5 measures of liquidity: working capital, current ratio, quick ratio, operating cash flow ratio, and finally the working capital ratio. So working capital, we know it's the difference between current assets minus current liabilities. So if you expect the future current assets to be higher than current liabilities, that means the working capital is going to be higher. But to the contrary, if the current assets are comparatively lower than the current liabilities, then the reduction in working capital means the company will have to make some arrangements for funding to finance your business operations. Similarly, current ratio is the ratio that we calculate by dividing current assets upon current liabilities. If this ratio is higher by plugging in some expected numbers, that is good. Higher current ratio is better. But if the ratio is lower than the previous ratio, then this means the business will have again some funding problems. We may have to arrange some funds to meet the shortfall. Quick ratio is a comparatively conservative ratio because inventory and prepayments normally are not easily convertible to cash. So if you remove inventory and prepayments, what you are left with is cash and cash equivalents, short-term marketable securities, and receivables net of any allowance for uncollectible accounts. So this is comparatively a conservative ratio, removes the impact of inventory and prepayments. Resultantly, the number that you get, if plugging in the numbers, expected numbers, results in a higher quick ratio, that is better for the company. But if the ratio is lower, that again means the business will have trouble in making sure to make the payments for its accounts payable or the other accruals. Operating cash flow ratio is also an interesting application of cash flows. We know there are 3 types of cash flows: cash flow from operating activities, from financing, and cash flow from investing. The one that is most important is the cash flow from operations. So how much cash a business has generated over the year so as to be able to pay off the current liabilities appearing on the balance sheet at the end of the year. Then we have working capital turnover, that is sales upon the average working capital. Higher if this ratio is higher, when we put in some expected numbers for the future. So higher working capital turnover is better for the business. That means we have higher projected net sales in the future, and it will cause this ratio to, if you expect the sales to go up, so we can expect the working capital ratio to be higher. If this ratio is lower, that means the company's working capital amount is too low. Next set of ratios are called the activity ratios. What are activity ratios? These are the ratios that we use to assess and evaluate how efficiently the company is utilizing its resources to generate sales, to generate profit. So the key ratios that we will be discussing in activity ratios are days in inventory, days sales in AR, account receivable, days of payables outstanding, and cash conversion cycle. The first one, days in inventory, that's how we calculate ending inventory upon cost of goods sold. Or this 365 could be shown here, multiply by 365. This tells us how many days do we hold our inventory. This ratio reflects how long it takes on average to turn our inventory into sales. Lower the number, it means we are more efficient. So projection related numbers, if we expect the days in inventory to be lower in the future, that is good for the business, mean business will have less trouble in managing cash and liquid assets. Then days sales in account receivables. This basically measures the average number of days to convert your sales into cash. So if this number is shorter, that is good for the company. The company is doing good job and it is collecting its receivable more frequently, and business will have less trouble in managing cash. Then days of payables outstanding. This ratio measures how long do we take, or the business takes, to pay to its vendors for the goods acquired or the services acquired. Longer the better, of course, without damaging the relationship with your vendors. Then the cash conversion cycle is simply the net of these days in inventory, days in sales, less days of payables outstanding. What does this measure for us? A lower cash conversion cycle, if we get, is better for the business, because a company would want to minimize the number of days it takes to convert inventory into receivables and receivables into cash, and then paying out of it to your accounts payable. So remember, this first part, this is called the operating cycle, and if we deduct the days of payable outstanding, this will give you the cash conversion cycle. Shorter the better. Next set of ratios we have are the debt ratios. What do they measure? Debt ratios measure to what extent have we used leverage in our capital structure. No doubt debt is cheaper. It also gets us benefit of taxes because interest is tax deductible. We have to pay lower cost of funds for debt than for the equity. So it is cheaper, but it is risky also. So the key ratios we will use here are debt to equity, debt to total assets, interest coverage, and sometimes service coverage also. So debt to equity ratio, debt is what proportion of equity. This is the measure of leverage. Let's say a business has got to $10,000 debt and the equity is $20,000. It means debt is 50% of equity, which means business is highly leveraged. For some businesses, the debt, let's say for 5,000, equity is 20, so this is less leverage. Only 25% of the equity represents debt. Then we have an alternative to measure leverage, that is the total debt ratio. Total liabilities mean the current liabilities and non-current liabilities divided by the total assets. Like in this first ratio, debt to equity ratio, if it is higher, that means company employs more risk, right? So we need to mix our capital in a way so as to lower our debt to equity ratio, so as to reduce the risk. Then the next one, total debt to total assets, total liability to total assets. This is very similar to debt to equity ratio. This is a measure of risk also. Company risk would increase if this ratio increased. Then we have the times interest earned, sometimes also called the interest coverage ratio. It is equal to earning before interest and tax upon interest expense. Let's say our earning before interest and tax is $100,000 and interest expense is $10,000, which means out of the available earnings, we can pay our interest 10 times. And that shows the level of comfort. How easily can we make the payment to our interest to the bondholders or to the fund providers to whom we pay interest. So higher the number, the company has more comfort or more funds available to cover its required interest expense associated with the debt. Then the last set of ratios are profitability ratios. We have done them many times previously. They focus on how well the company has generated profit. These are the profitability ratios, a measure of profit, how well we have generated profit based upon sales, based upon equity, or the total assets. So first we have the gross margin, that is the gross profit upon net sales. Higher the better, means company is generating more trading profit. Profit margin is the profit expressed as a percentage of sales, net income expressed as a percentage of sales. Return on equity we have already discussed through DuPont models, net income as a percentage of average total equity, and finally the return on assets, that is the net income generated as a percentage of total assets employed by the firm. We have discussed these much more in detail in our previous studies. You just need to know how to calculate, interpret, and comment